Marketing is about values.
Nike didn't call me and sell me this in a catalog. I bought this swoosh because it's ingrained in my soul.
When you have a product that really resonates with customers, the word of mouth grows like wildfire.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the 10-Minute Marketer. We were off for a week or so, but we're glad to have you guys back. Logan, while I was gone, I actually consumed podcasts for the first time in like 6 to 9 months. I've been really off the content consuming game, specifically podcasts, because every second I'm not working, I want to spend with my daughter or golfing.
Dad life do that to you. Oh, and even working in some golfing, man. Yeah, it's stacked against you on consuming podcasts. Then
working in some golfing. I actually went to the Ryder Cup, my favorite all-time sporting event. We can get into that on another podcast. Maybe we'll break down the marketing behind the Ryder Cup.
Yeah,
but actually, I wrote that down in my list of things, and I didn't mention that to you pre-recording. We're definitely going to talk about that next time. So don't forget to like and subscribe if you're into sports at all. There's a crazy case study about how the Ryder Cup ended up justifying 3xing their prices in just 2 years. Went from $250 a ticket to $750 a ticket, and how they justified doing that. I wrote that down because I went to the Ryder Cup. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's like this US versus European team golf event. Happens every 2 years. My favorite sporting event in the entire world. I finally got to go this past weekend. But we'll talk about that next time, so don't forget to like and subscribe. While I was flying to the Ryder Cup on my flight, I listened to a podcast where I learned a really interesting nugget about how Audible, which is Amazon's audiobook product,
right,
grew to the masses almost exclusively on the back of one marketing channel. And when I learned the marketing channel, hindsight's 2020, right? I was immediately thinking, wow, no duh, this is really smart. But I thought, where can I apply this no duh marketing strategy into my own business, and where can you guys all who are listening apply it to your business as well? So the interesting stat, Logan, is that Audible grew to like $100 million a year in revenue, almost exclusively on the back of ads inside of podcasts. And the hindsight being 2020 and the no duh being, well, if someone's listening to a podcast to consume information, they're listening to Joe Rogan or any sort of business podcast, or really even Serial, the like crime podcast, right? Like they're already used to consuming content, long form content through their ears, whether they're driving, whether they're on a flight like I do, whether it's at night, whatever it is. So that is the perfect demographic for someone to then take it a step further and say, instead of listening to 1 hour a week on a podcast, I'll listen to 10 hours over the course of 10 weeks or over, a week in an audiobook. And I looked into this a little bit more. They've sponsored a total of 1,000 podcasts since Audible launched. And they've sponsored a total of 10,908 episodes as of September 29th.
That 1,000 number was just number of podcasts, number of shows, right? And then we're talking about number of episodes to which Audible ad has played on.
Yeah, and really quick thing, because I think the no does like, okay, go where your target audience is, right? But the thing that I didn't even realize until I read this number is like, okay, they've sponsored a bunch of, I could probably dig into this number more, but they've sponsored a bunch of podcasts, not just 2 or 3 times, like at least 100, if not hundreds of times. They've only sponsored 1,000 podcasts, but it's
right.
But they sponsored 12,000
shows. Yeah.
So they've sponsored on average for every podcast they've sponsored 100. Right? 100 episodes. And so it goes back to the frequency thing that we talk about a lot. It goes back to people need to hear or see your brand at least 5 times before they decide if they're going to purchase or not. If every single time someone downloads the 10-minute marketer and they hear an ad for Audible, which we don't have any ads currently, but if we had an ad every single time for Audible, people are much more likely to download Audible on the 4th, 5th, 6th time. So you have to stay top of mind with people, especially if it's the same people who are downloading that podcast every single week, every couple of days, every day, however long that podcast is. But I thought that was so interesting. I was like, man, what are the lessons for me? Well, number one, frequency, right? Like I just talked about, you got to get in front of people multiple times. And number two, I think you were about to lay on what that is, kind of what we talked about pre-show.
Yeah, I was going to say it. I mean, it's all about not just where your audience is, but there's a lot of different ways to look at that, right? It's okay, are they on Facebook? Are they on TikTok? Are they on LinkedIn? Do they go to conferences, right? Because there's kind of these different lenses that we can put on. And once you put on the lens of, okay, people who would subscribe to Audible, they might be, readers, they might be, higher income, they might be, oh wait, hold on a second. The very base level, they're consuming audio content. Okay, where else do people consume audio content? Okay, that's podcasts. And so then it got into, okay, well, what sort of genres, what targeting, who listens to audio content and also spends whatever $14.95 a month at least on, audiobooks and has that disposable income versus lots of people that listen to podcasts, but only listen to free audio content, right? There's all these different lenses we can put on. And sometimes it's like putting it on and like seeing if you see the overlap, because I don't know if this was part of the strategy, but like the takeaway for me would be, okay, they found where other people, they found where audiences are already consuming other types of audio content to advertise their product to help them consume other audio content. Well, maybe if they're advertising on like a true crime podcast, then they're leading with, hey, did you know that you could get, this copy of this new true crime book on Audible for free with your free trial, right? And so the offer might change, and that's kind of the next layer. You got to go where the audience is, but then you got to tailor the offer based on, where you're, who's in that pocket of the audience that you're reaching into. I don't know if that was part of it, but if you're thinking about applying this strategy, like step one, go where they're at, and then how can you make the offer customized and create a compelling hook for this segment of your audience as you find these little pockets.
I think this is arguably the most important part. It's the make or break part of this whole strategy. We talk about it a lot with our newsletter advertisers. So for those of you that are maybe new to the podcast, my core business is 180,000 people read my daily newsletter every single day. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and click below. But we work with huge brands like Monday.com and Notion, and Tony Robbins is a huge sponsor of our newsletter every year. But we also work with a lot of small marketing agency owners and a lot of small software startups who are trying to get in front of the Marketing Max audience. And every single time they send us, hey, we want to send traffic to this URL, and this URL is their homepage, we immediately say, hey, we're happy to run it, but we warn you, you're not really going to get any conversions if you send all of our people from our newsletter to your homepage. And they're like, oh, let's start here. And then every single time, 2 weeks in, 4 weeks in, they're like, oh, performance isn't great. It's like, hey, we told you, you need to have, it doesn't necessarily need to be a discount, but it needs to be something very special, very unique, pertaining to my audience and the topic or the content that you're going to write in the ad. Right. So what some of our clients do is, if I've actually used the service and I believe in it, they will pay a little bit more to have an endorsement from me, and they'll drop people off on a landing page that says Marketing Max endorses this product. And I only do it for companies that I am 100% a user of and like, but that drastically increases conversion rates and actually gets people to sign up. But if it's a combo of like Marketing Max endorses this and everyone who subscribes this week gets 10% off, or I know I said you don't need a newsletter or you don't need a discount, but like everyone who signs up this week gets free VIP onboarding or gets this premium feature that's only available if you sign up this week, or at least book your demo call this week. Or, if you run an agency and you run a lead gen agency on the back of Facebook ads, like most of our clients ask us to create like a email drip sequence to warm up the leads before they actually show up to the call. We always say no, but if you book this week and you follow Marketing Max and you subscribe, we'll actually do that for you. And although you don't really want to do it, you're going to see a much higher ROI with it. So I think like creating something that pertains to that newsletter of the day, or to your point, that podcast, like if you're going to go sponsor podcasts, what is the topic of that podcast? Or, is there not only the topic of the podcast as a whole, like if you're sponsoring this podcast, marketing, but what is the episode that they're going to talk about? Like, what's the topic of that particular episode? Can you either yourself write the script to have that person read it, or can you have that person create their own segue. Be like, hey, speaking of, SEO, we're breaking down this awesome SEO strategy. You guys should check out this cool SEO tool called XYZ.
Yeah.
And they use this exact strategy that we're talking about or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Another way this can work too is like not exactly tying it to the topic, but I've actually heard this with a few podcasts or a few political and news podcasts I listen to. I won't say what they are because I don't want to offend anybody on the right or left, whatever. But a political podcast I listen to where he'll be like, oh, and just like this is happening in the news, and like make this segue where it's like, it doesn't even necessarily sound like an ad at the beginning. And they must do it like they must write the beginning of the ad like day of, because it actually fits into the flow of like the news cycle that he's covering. And I was just like, man, that is just like a little tweak that, once you've heard it several times, like you see what he's doing, but it kind of makes you smile a little bit of like, oh, that was a bit of a stretch, but like they connected the dots there. And that helps with the memorability. Going back to your point about the 5 touches that are needed, not every touch is necessarily equal. If there can be some emotion tied to it, even if it's kind of like tongue in cheek, like laughing at it, as opposed to just the ad blindness or deafness in this case, since we're talking about audio ads, then there's something to that. So yeah, and I'll just echo what you said. I've run ads in your newsletter for my own agency at Demand Shift and for some of my clients that are trying to get in front of that audience as well. And when we lead with a very specific offer, even if it's not a discount, if it's a content offer, like a compelling lead magnet or a webinar or something like that, the conversion rates are much, much higher than what I've seen just driving to, a homepage and like check out our service or check out our product, start on the homepage and browse around.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would say here, wrapping up this short 10-minute marketer episode, since we rebranded, go ahead and like and subscribe, don't forget, is a lot of companies, the moment they have some budget to spend, they're going to start going to Facebook ads. They're going to start going to Google ads. That can be very, very, very expensive if you don't know what you're doing. And so I hear a lot of times people come to me and or my team and they say, hey, like I know you guys run Facebook ads, but I've tried 3 other agencies in the past and they sucked. And we get inside their Facebook ad account and they had no idea what they're doing or their strategy was crap. And I think sponsoring a podcast or sponsoring a newsletter might be a very, very, very higher chance of getting an ROI strategy than going straight to Facebook or Google ads because of everything we talked about, right? To summarize, because of you're getting the brand affinity with the influencer or the host of the show, you're getting multiple touch points for a lot less money than you would with Facebook ads. And most people don't even have retargeting set up in Facebook ads when they're just getting started out. So it's kind of forced in there. And then number 3, to your point, if you come up with something compelling, if you come up with something that is, an offer, a limited time offer, a related concept angle pitch to whatever the topic of the newsletter or podcast or social post about, I think we all can learn a lot from the Audible lesson of going where your target customers are and creating something specific. Any final words?
I love it, man. I think those are good thoughts. We actually kept this one closer to 10 minutes on the 10-minute marketer. And I think we're going to be doing more of these stories of, how a certain company achieves something and then breaking that down and then giving you parallels. So if you like the format of this episode, one, let us know, reach out to @MarketingMax on X or hit me up, Logan Lyles on LinkedIn. Those are we're both active most on the 2 separate channels. So we got you covered. If X is your thing, reach out to X. If LinkedIn is your thing, hit me up. Let us know what you think of this episode, this format, and stay subscribed or hit follow in Spotify or Apple. And we'll see you next week.
Cheers, guys. Like and subscribe, share with a friend. Thank you as always for tuning in. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Max show. It takes me and my team hours to produce it every single week, but it only takes you 15 seconds to hit that share button and text it to a friend, drop it in a Slack group, or share it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or any of your favorite social platforms. I appreciate you taking the time to check out my content. Have an awesome day.